Hello, and welcome to Showcase Chicago podcast. I'm your host, Michael Reyes, a realtor in the Chicagoland area with A.R.E partners. Today, one of my clients, Leo, has agreed to do an interview with me and talk about the experience of working together. I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my first name's actually Leo Melly. Everyone just calls me Leo. You know, I'm a junior technically, but also not technically. My dad's name ends with an I, mine ends with a Y. They messed that up when I was in birth and we never fixed it, so.
Wow.
A little interesting. My mom likes to tell people that my name stems from Leo and her name's Elizabeth, so Ellie, Leo M. Ellie. So there's a couple stories that roam around the world, but yeah, just Leo's fine with me.
Okay, and what do you do for a living?
So I'm a retail.
Were you going to say you're a realtor and that would have been hilarious?
I was like, I'm a realtor as well. No, I'm a retail manager. I've been managing for the last 12 years, which is crazy. I'm only 30. I started managing at the age of 18. I've managed for Starbucks, Under Armour, Nike, and now I'm at the North Face. So I'm a store manager over in Schaumburg.
Okay, that's great. And what neighborhood did you grow up in?
So my whole life I've lived in the Belmont-Cragen area. Some people call it Belmont Central. But if you're not familiar with it, it's the last neighborhood before you get to Elmwood Park and like Oak Park and things like that.
Okay, well, let's start with your why. Why did you decide it was time to make a purchase now?
I think it's something I've been thinking about for the last like 5 or so years. Right after I finished paying off my car, I was like, what's next?
I remember, not to cut you off, but I remember you ultimately were like, I'm 30, it's time to make an investment. And like the conversation was, you know, what's the right investment for right now, looking into the future.
Getting a good raise, then I was like, what am I doing? Where's my money going? Like, I can't just continue to live this life of like spending on Uber Eats every day or things like that. You know, like it's time to put it somewhere. And I was like, I think it's time to invest in something and invest my future.
Leo, how did we meet?
So, I mean, we met through, I guess we could call him a mutual friend, right?
Yes.
So, we met through Javier Garcia.
Javier Garcia, who is the Senior Vice President of the Federal Savings Bank. So, shout out
to Javier. I've known Javier since I was maybe 8, 9, so 21 years now. He is best friends with one of my best friends. And I think that's how we stayed in touch through like Instagram and just kind of like, I was like, why not go to Javier, someone that I'm comfortable with, and that's how we met. Well,
and so thank you, Javier, for the introduction. We appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to work with you. I think that one of the things I liked about working with Javier, when he initially set up the appointment, he calls it, I believe, a whiteboard discussion.
Yep.
And if I'm wrong about that, Javier, I apologize. But ultimately, he invites the client into his office, and he sits down with the whiteboard, and he explains the different types of financing, which is very informative, especially because you are a first-time home buyer. And for you to understand what that means, what the numbers look like, what type of financing, I thought that was a really great presentation. And it was very informative, nurturing, and detailed. And I think it gave you the power to kind of understand what you were looking at in terms of financing.
Yeah, and I think when it came to that, the biggest thing was I'm a visual learner. So I'm really good with numbers, right? So I could do numbers all day. But if we were just talking about them, it might go in one ear, out the other. It helped a lot.
And you know, so he actually reached out to me. He's like, hey, I have a great referral for you. He's a friend of mine. And I was like, well, I obviously appreciate the business, of course. But, you know, I'm very like, show up, have all the details. He kind of gave me a synopsis of what you may or may not be looking for. And so I prepared for the meeting, brought my buyer consultation packet with you.
Yeah,
and
we also super well prepared.
Well, thank you.
Like, I got your email, I think, before I got Javi's email.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, oh my God. And it's
Did you get my email before you got Javi's email?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But like, I got the packet and I looked over it and I was like, oh my God, there's already a contract. I was like, what am I doing? You know, so then.
Well, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, so that's helpful for me to hear.
No. But it wasn't in a bad way. It was kind of like, I wasn't ready, right?
Okay.
Like, well, I mean, we'll talk about that, like how I was.
Absolutely. We're going to get into that for sure.
I don't know what I want, but you know, like I got the packet, I read over it, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's my first thought, and I don't want you to like.
No, give it to. I want you to be completely honest, please.
My first thought was like, oh my God, this guy's super prepared. I was like, he might be really pushy. I was like, I know. I'm so
That's
sorry.
good. This is good. This is good.
And I was like, I gotta get my shit together. You know, so I was like, and then we showed up, and like I felt your energy, and Javi's energy, and I was like, oh my god, it's me overthinking. Like, it's like going to college. They give you, your syllabus before you walk into the classroom, so you know what's going on. And I was like, this is perfect. And you know what's expected. You're overwhelmed, right? Because you don't know anything on there. Like you're gonna learn about biochemistry, and you're like, Jesus, like I don't even know regular chemistry. I don't know biochemistry.
Absolutely.
Right? But then you walk in, and that's what the instructor is for, to teach you and show you, and that's what you did, and it was great,
Well, I'm glad. So a part of my welcome email when I start working with the buyer is ultimately sending them the contract, my buyer welcome kit, all those things included. And for me, it's like, I don't want the first time for you to see a contract is when you're writing it up, right? And so part of my buyer consultation is going through that process and really breaking out, answering all of your questions. Yeah. The one thing I'll go back to about the financing, when we're talking to Javier, very much in terms of your financials, we knew that we needed some down payment assistance. Yep. We knew that we ultimately were going to have to negotiate also a credit. So the two options that we had sat down and presented to you was a $15,000 grant program. That particular program is only in particular zip codes, and there's really small pockets of where that $15,000 is allocated to. So those are like based by neighborhood. And then there was a $6,000 grant that really is anywhere, and it's just something that they're offering now with the interest rates being what they are, and really encouraging people like, we're going to help you with your down payment. And the long-term game is really when the interest rates go back to a place that are sustainable, that people will refinance, right? But then you've gotten a really good deal, and you've gotten all this down payments, and you didn't have to bring up as much money to come to close and make it happen. And so with the $6,000, we knew you were going to get that. And we also, from the very initial consultation, knew that we were going to need to get you a percentage from the seller as well. Yep. So going into working with you, I knew that was going to be part of the strategy. And so ultimately we ended up getting you a $5,000 credit at closing, plus a $6,000 grant for your financing. And we are right before closing, so we don't have the final figures yet, but they're going to be modest in terms of what you're actually going to have to bring to closing.
And then once we get it, I'm sure you'll share that out, right?
Yeah. And Jody will definitely give you the final figures right before closing, and you'll have to get a check. But one other thing I'll say about these grant programs right now is like the market and where the market is currently. We, in Chicagoland area, in the local market area, we are sustaining our prices. It is still slightly leaning towards seller. However, with the interest rates being what they are, we are getting a slight edge, which is why we can negotiate some of these credits. Every situation is different. You can't guarantee you can get you a credit, but it's a part of the process and depends on how we, what kind of properties.
And, as being a new homeowner, buyer, I appreciate, and I'm sure we'll get into Jody a little bit, but, how honest everyone was with me. Because I was like, sure. I don't need that, and I'll pay that, whatever. And being like, well, let's sit down and really think about this, and can we, really ask for this credit for, the microwave or this, and I didn't know.
And that was actually an inspection thing that we could definitely. Actually, why don't we just jump right into it? So we got an inspection, and we ended up ultimately getting you another $1,000 credit. Yep. Because of some inspection issues that came up. So
great. And it wasn't anything major, but I didn't even know that was an option, which was really cool to find out. Through you, through Jody, and just the team in general.
Absolutely. When we started this process, what did you think you wanted?
When I first started, I wanted a place.
Okay.
That's all we had, right? So, there's a couple different things running through my mind. Maybe a condo, maybe a single-family home, maybe a two-flat. There's so many different
options. Those are all three very different things. Multifamily, single-family, condo. All different things.
I was all over the map. I was all over the place, right?
And we had just given you all this information, financing, and now we need to get clear about what you're looking for. And, we created a plan. I just remember you very much I don't know what I want, I'm sorry. And I was like, we're going to find the clarity you needed for this process. And ultimately what I did was I went back to the office and I set up 3 searches. I set up multifamilies, single families, and condos for you.
Yeah, and, on one side of it, I'm like, oh, you should get single family home. It's so cute. You'll have your yard, you have this, you have that, which I love the idea. And one day it's going to happen. I have no doubt, right? But when you started setting up those searches and started looking at single family homes, I was like, oh my God, this is more than I could, I'm going to bite off more than I could chew. And I was like, and it's nowhere near where I want to be. right? Like, I don't want to be in Berwyn. I don't want to be in River Grove. Like, I want to be close enough to my family where I could,
And off the expressway, close to work. I remember you saying that.
Yep. And like, there's so much going on in my life already. I was like, if I'm going to get a single family home, it's going to be a single family home that needs so much work. I was like, in my budget. And I was like, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to need a roommate. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. And I was like thinking more of like the cons versus the
pros and the cons. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I thought about like 2 flats, again, like the price range, like just for something that I could afford, it was going to need a lot of work again. And like, then
we're going to have to get creative with the financing as well because these properties needed work. And so we were going to have to ultimately do a renovation loan. But at the end of the day, you still didn't know what you wanted. So I took the approach. I was like, okay, we're going to get this guy educated. He is going to find clarity. I got this. And I mean, we only went out once.
Yeah. So it's funny because people are like, well, how many times have you go to a realtor? My sister's also currently shopping for a home and she's gone out like 20 times, I think she said. Something like that, right? And we only went out once, but he was really good. So we
saw 2 multifamilies.
Yep.
We saw 2 single family homes and we saw 2 condos.
Yep. And like every one of them had their defects. And first of all, let me tell you, this man is creative. We couldn't get into some keys. We had to get some antifreeze.
Yeah, so actually that's really funny, and that's actually one of my notes to talk about. We were at a condo to get into this property, and the lockbox was frozen. The joys of showing properties in Chicago in the winter. However, I was like, he really liked the condo that he ended up ultimately buying, and but we went to go see the other condo, and you wanted to compare it to that one, right? And he was bummed. I could tell you really wanted to get into that property. So I jumped online and I was like, okay, how am I going to get into this lockbox? What am I going to do? And we found out that you can use windshield washer fluid. That's what we did. So I looked it up really quickly on the phone. We went to the gas station. I bought a bottle of window washer fluid. I poured it on this lockbox and the darn thing opens. Yeah. So we got to see the property.
And, it was a little disappointing that we went through all that struggle to see,
Because it wasn't a good condo?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because the condo, because I think we saw this one first.
We did see this one first.
And we were like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, I love this one. And then we went to go see that one and we worked so hard to get it in. And then it was like...
Actually, I don't think it was 2 of each. I actually think I showed you 4 condos.
Yeah, because we saw the
one in Oak Park, the couple in Oak Park.
There's 2 in Oak Park, the one that we couldn't get into.
But we saw through the windows.
Then this one, and then the one over by like Lawrence.
And Kimball, I think. Yeah. And that's the one where we had to getting into the lockbox and defrosting it.
Well, I think what was also the point was the pictures were so nice, and then you walked in, and you were like, oh, like, And again, I had already fallen in love with this one, so I think I was like, just blur eyes, and you're like, oh.
But that's also why we don't, as a realtor, when I work with my sellers, we don't accept sight unseen offers, because the pictures aren't always clear. Yes, I take great photos for my listings, but you have to see the property before we accept an offer from you. And that's very telling, right? You saw the pictures of that condo, you got excited, you really wanted to see it before you made this decision. And ultimately, we did get in after seeing it, and you were like, no, that's not for me.
I was just like, no, it's not.
I will say, I think it is a testament to my angle is always give too much information. And I think, we saw more than 6. It was probably 8 or 9 properties in one day. But at least it really gave you the range
right?
and all the information of each of these properties. I broke down all the pros and the cons and the work that it needs and the concerns and all the things. But, it was the process. And ultimately, one time out, in less than a week of meeting, we were under contract.
Yeah. So we moved fast. So this place, it had been listed for like 3 days.
Oh, yeah. It was relatively new on the market.
So it was like 3 days, and I saw it, and I was like, let's go. Like, let's move. Like, that's natural. So, yeah, the lights are on, but this is all natural light, right?
Mm-hmm. There's lights on, but we're on the 3rd floor in Portage Park, just off the expressway, and the sunlight is fantastic here. Yeah.
So, I saw it, I loved it. I was like, this is the place, and we moved. Yeah.
Well, and we'll talk about the negotiations a little bit as well, because ultimately when we started the conversation of how to negotiate, we put in an offer for, I'm not exactly sure on the numbers, I didn't take the notes on that.
145.
Was 40?
So it was listed for 159. We put in an offer of 145.
At least he remembers. Look at that.
No,
I should have noted this.
I'm a number guy.
This is good.
They came back with 155.
And he wanted to accept.
And I wanted to accept. I was like, whatever, like, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
My goal was kind enough to be like, you know what? I think they were able to come down. I think we could go down a little bit more. So I think we went in with 152. And I think that was the sweet spot that we were looking for already. That
was the goal from the very beginning of the negotiation. I had a spreadsheet of all the numbers, and every time there was a change in the negotiation, I think we went back three times maybe. But I was like, I think we can get a little bit more down. And mind you, we got it at that price with a $5,000 credit. So really, your net offer was less than $5,000.
Yeah. So
and that was fun because I was really pleased with I was glad that you wanted to accept their counter offer, but I think I knew there was still room. And that's the benefits of working with a realtor, right? And understanding, oh wait, there's more money on the table that you can save in this situation.
It was a little bit of back and forth. I mean, but I was like, give a counter offer right now. And Michael's like, well, we're going to wait till tomorrow and we're going to make them wait. And and you did see a lot of condos and you were interested in others. Like,
but you really liked it. You had your heart set on it.
I was interested in others.
And some of the other concerns are things that made this condo appealing to you was because ultimately you're thinking long term as an investor, and this particular building does allow rentals. So those were some of the things that we had to consider, and it was a good option, right? You can live here for a couple years, and then you can rent it out. Yep. I just will say that I love that we got you the clarity that you needed, with one time out, because you were definitely all over the map when we first sat down, but you found what you needed, What were your most significant stresses in the process?
I think off the get-go was not knowing what I wanted. That was the first stress, right? I think the second stress would be, the waiting.
Okay. So the waiting up. So once you're under contract, we have to wait to obviously clear to close and all those things.
Right. So I think.
And not wanting to lose the deal.
Yeah.
So we initially made an offer and we did get some delays in the process, unfortunately, and we had to extend our contingencies.
Yeah. So I think, just recalling numbers, but so we looked at places, I think it was the January 30th or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was really late in January. We put in an offer and they were like, we negotiated, we got to 152 with the clause that we would close in 30 days. So we had a closing date for the 28th of February, and with me, I was like, what if she backs out? What if she doesn't want to do it? What if
she says no to our request of extending contingencies?
And I think the waiting process was, more of the issue with me where I'm like, I don't want her to, I was like, I don't want her to.
You don't want to lose it. You don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
You were emotionally tied to the situation as well as, you wanted this property and we also wanted to respect that we made an offer, on a 30-day offer and we ultimately couldn't commit to what we offered, right? So you kind of feel like, that a sense of responsibility, that we dropped the ball on something. Yep. Delays do happen. It's not the first nor the last situation that's going to be delays. There were certainly things that could have been done differently, but at the end of the day, the seller did agree, and here we are closing on this property. Yeah. What was something about the experience that surprised you overall?
Not to blow your head up, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm about to go into the question about me in a minute, so feel free.
Not that you needed, but how supportive you were and how supportive the team was. Jody, you, and just being able to reach out and hey, I have a stupid question. It's surprising how comfortable I was with being I don't know what's going on. Can we?
Yeah.
Can someone loop me in? And I don't want to say controlling because that sounds bad, but I like to be in the know of the situation at all times.
And I like to give information. So I'm all about making sure that you are in the know.
so I loved, how easy it was to be hey, I have a question. Hey, I'll text you and then you call me and all that.
I also do the Tuesday check-ins. Mm-hmm. I hope my clients don't get tired of hearing me, but every Tuesday I always like to call or text or touch base and see where we are, give you an update and see if you have any questions about where we are in the process. So I'm glad that worked out. And then I will, because you've mentioned Jody a couple times, shout out to Jody Robinson-Beresin. She is the real estate attorney that I referred you to.
Yep, she's amazing.
She's fantastic. She's been in the business over 30 years. She has worked with many of my clients. One thing I love about Jody is how detailed she is, how responsive she is.
So friendly.
Oh, good.
So friendly. She's Leo, don't worry.
Yeah, she's friendly, but also just diligent.
Yeah.
Like she is never dropped the ball. With the team that I have in place, I always feel a sense of I'm not worried about something getting done when it's in their hands. Yeah. And Jody is certainly one of those people.
Yeah, she keeps everyone in the loop. She's very friendly. She makes you feel comfortable talking to her, even when it's like a difficult conversation to have, or even if it's like something that you might not understand right off the bat. She's really, detailed and just gives you everything you need. So
that's good.
Shout out to Jody.
Yeah, very much shout out to Jody. And there are no stupid questions. I feel like you don't want to ask her questions, but there's no wrong questions. Like you should not feel awkward or bad about asking the smallest question because that's what we're here for, So now that we're going to get into me, because you already started talking to me, but when you refer your friends and family to me, what are the things you would tell them about working with me?
I mean, just how easy you are to get along with, first off, right? Like, I think in a realtor, what you want is a friend. And I think we have that.
Absolutely.
As well as someone that's educated with, like the neighborhoods and the areas and things like that. So, it's really simple for someone to be like, I'm going to show you a house, right? But like really being detailed with like what they know about the area and how they know, the Chicagoland, especially because we're so different, right? Like Chicago.
We were all over. We went to Oak Park, Berwyn.
The Chicagoland. And, and just how helpful you were. That I think that's the key. It's like helpful with all the questions and all the answers and being so well informed and, just looking out for me in general. Like I feel like that was like the big one. It's hard to find people that look out for you. We just kind of talked about it, but like, you have to take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else. I think you take so good care of yourself that you're able to like take care of me as well and really, really put me, at the forefront of, what's best for me.
Yes. So I'm so glad that came across, and thank you for saying that. And there's two ways that people run this business. There's the transactional way where people are like, hey, is someone going to buy or sell in the next 30 days? Push, push, push. I'm going to show you 2 houses and you need to choose one of these houses. That's not me. My relationship, the way I run my business is about relationships. I strive on building authentic, detailed. If I have to tell you I don't think this house is right for you, I may lose the commission, right? I want to get a deal together. But it's really about making sure that I nurture our relationship, that that I might have your best interests at heart. I never want someone to doubt that. And that's why when I give so much information, because I want to make sure you know what you're getting into. Obviously I did this every day and I have a lot of information. But it's nurturing the relationship, giving you all the right things. At the end of the day, I know that trust and support is going to be there now. And my goal has always been to be your realtor for life, right? Yeah. And so I hope that always ends up being the case.
And it's the start of a great relationship. This is move number 1, but like when we get to move number 10, we're going to look back and be like, do you remember that one time when, we bought that condo? And it's going to be great. And I think that's, maybe I don't buy anything else for the next 5 years. Who knows, right? But
listen, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years,
but we have a relationship that I think is just great, and like, just like seeing the journey of what you go through with every client through your social media and things like that, and like I'm a gym freak sometimes, and like seeing your fitness journey as well, like all of that is inspiring, and I like to work with people that not only have aspirations in life but also inspire others in their own aspirations. And I think that's what I found in you, right? Because, like I said, like I don't post things and things to like be inspiring, but if the way that I inspire myself inspires you, then that's great. And I think that's what you do. You inspire yourself to be better, and then inspire others along that journey. And that's I love that. I love that about you, and I love that about the situation that we're in. It's
great that that's what people see in my journey, and that I definitely want to again consistently be authentic in my posts and sharing my 170-pound weight loss. That's been a journey in itself. Always pushing forward and always wanting to do better. And hopefully I continue, I will continue to do this for years to come. It's what I love to do. That's what I'm meant to do. And thank you for trusting me.
Thank you.
Any questions you have for me? Any last minute notes? Anything you feel good about? Yeah.
I mean, only question I have is, are you going to come help me build my couch?
Absolutely not. That's actually really funny. I'm glad you said that, because my brother and like friends and family, there was I think 5 or 10 years ago, I was like, I used to help people move all the time.
Yeah.
I'm at a place in my life that's no longer an option. But I'll show up in other ways, just not moving or fixing things. Well, thank you again, Leo, for agreeing to do this interview, and trust me with the purchase of your home. Again, at the end of the day, it's not been about the paycheck, but about the people in the relationship. I know that as I continue to work hard and take great care of my clients, the referrals will come and the paychecks will follow. Earning your trust was my ultimate goal, and I hope to be your realtor for life. And to everyone listening, if I can support you with your real estate needs, you can search Showcase Chicago or Michael Reyes on all social media outlets, or go to www.showcase-chicago.com. Until next time, continue to live your best life. I'm Michael Reyes with A.R.E Partners, and thank you for listening to Showcase Chicago podcast.